Okay, artists, it's time to paint our squirrel and leaf rubbing. So let me go over the paint rules because this is the first time you're painting this year. We're gonna have one shade color of watercolor paint and we'll see how this goes. So mainly it's about the procedures. So the paintbrush should never be sitting in the water like that. It should be on the plate or here, and everything that's on the plate or tray stays there. It's never on the table like that, and you never leave this on the table like that. When you're using the paints, you don't splash or tap. That can lead to splashes onto your work or other people's work and everywhere. So what we do is we just dip it in. You can brush it along the bottom or the sides if you want, and then wipe it off on the sides if you need to. But when you're first waking up the paint, you're gonna need to dip it in and then get some drips of paint in there. Now, some of this type of paint that we have is very sticky. If it's praying, then it's very sticky. So you don't wanna dig your brush down into the paint because then you're gonna have sticky, goopy paint here and it will never, ever, ever dry on your painting. So what we do is we put those little drops of water in there and then we gently wake up the paint, and then that's your paint, the watery part on the top. You don't dig down into the more gloopy part in the bottom. Okay, so let's start with this one over here. So we're doing crayon resist. We're going right over the top of the leaves, okay? Now, if this is too light for you, then you wanna just not add more water yet. You want less water, and that'll give you a darker color. And then you just go right over the top. If you go back and forth smoothly, then you won't have brush strokes or lines where there's a darker spot and a lighter spot. You can do that like that. Be sure you get the edges and corners. And that is called crayon resist. It also works with oil pastel because oil and wax resist the water. It does not mix with the water, which is called soluble. If something mixes with water and becomes one, that's called soluble. This is not soluble. So it will not mix with the paint. The paint is beading up on top of it and it looks very cool. It looks kind of like when it rains and the water beads up on the leaves. Now when you get down to the squirrel, you're gonna wanna go around your squirrel or whatever animal you chose to draw. You're gonna go around him. Now if you have a flat brush like this, it's good for covering large areas with the flat side, but then you can turn it and really get into those tiny corners. That's why so many artists really like this type of brush. So you want to be kind of precise with this particular type of painting down here. Not all paintings are precise, but this type is. You want to go around your squirrel pretty carefully. And part of that is holding the brush right here in the middle. Now some of these actually have a squishy part that shows you where is the ideal place to hold your brush usually. Of course, it depends what type of painting you're doing, but with this type of painting you're going to want to hold it here. That'll give you really good control. If you're down here, like when you're writing with a pencil, your hand will just get paint all over it, and if you hold it back here, you just don't have very good control. So that would be when you're doing large gestural paintings, but right now we want it to be kind of like this. So kind of get used to holding it like that from the beginning, and then you've got good technique. Okay. Now, if you're going like this, you might be able to see a line there where it's light and dark, and you might not want that. So you pay attention to that and just go back over it and smooth out those differences, okay? Now, if you get like a puddle, then you just spread that puddle out to an area that doesn't have paint already. You don't wanna end up with puddles on your paint, on your painting. Because number one, when you put it on the drying rack, it'll drip off onto other people's paintings, and that's not cool. Another thing is it just kind of makes your paper wrinkly. As it dries, it'll soak into the paper more and more, and it'll make it more wavy and wrinkly. So you don't want that either. All right, so you will finish every detail of your painting. Be sure to step back and look at it and see if everything's exactly how you want it. Then once it is done and how you want it, you put it where a wet painting goes. And be sure that this is all completely clean. If there's any little drips or anything like that, it's your job to get a paper towel and clean it up. You're always able to go get a paper towel whenever you want, go to the restroom whenever you want, wash your hands, get a tissue. There's probably other things, but there are things where you can just go handle that yourself and be responsible for yourself. You guys are really good at that. Okay, good luck. Carry on.